गर्छु सिट लिइसक्नुभएको छ उहाँलाई पनि आएर आसन ग्रहण गर्न अनुरोध गर्दछु। हामीसँग यस कार्यक्रममा सबभन्दा पहिला म निर्मल
and then reaches to the readers. In behalf of others books, it gives me a immensely thanks Mr. Siva Rijalji. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome the literature, culture and the public life. It is deeply appreciated. A special welcome to Dr. Jyoti Tuladhar, whose thoughtful translation has helped this work reach a wider audience. Though you are joining us today with an audio-visual message from the Portugal, we are delighted to have you with us. A very special welcome to our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Avish Subediji, known as by many of us Shakespeare of Nepal. Your extraordinary contribution to literature, theatre, academia have inspired generation of readers, writers, and students. Sir, it is a privilege to have you with us this afternoon. And finally, my warm greetings to the author of today's book, Malla Sundar ji. Your words have brought all of us together this afternoon, and it is privilege and others books to help carry those words in many more readers. I also extend my heartfelt welcome to the respected journalists, scholars, booksellers, publishers, readers, and every distinguished guest present here today. My sincere thought also go to the Bajra books for introducing others books to Malla Sundar ji. That introduction became the beginning of the wonderful partnership and ultimately the reason we are all gathered here. I would like to thank the dedicated team of the Dwarika Hotel for their wonderful arrangement and hospitality. For over 3 decades, Others Books has had privilege to serving the world of books, what began as a distribution house and grown up a publishing home with more than 500 titles representing literature, philosophy, politics, anthropology, tourism, children's books, and many, many. But numbers have never defined our journey. We are proud to welcome September 17 into the Others Books family and sincerely hope this book travel for beyond the hall to libraries, classrooms, bookstores, homes, and most importantly, into the heart and the mind of the reader. Today we celebrate every person who has been a part of this journey. Thank you for joining us celebrating September 17.
To our Mayor, Acting Mayor, Kathmandu Metropolitan City, and Civil. Anyone who man behind the identity politics and intellectual writer, and his book, this is a very quite significant moment, I guess.
I'm very pleased to be here sharing in this launch of September 17th. But first of all, let me extend my greetings to all the distinguished guests in this gathering, both on the podium and on the floor. I would especially like to give my greetings to my dear friend, Professor Avish Subediji, a renowned scholar, the chief guest of this event. I would also like to express my thanks to the acclaimed novelist, Mr. Malla Sundar, who has given me the honor and privilege of translating his most uniquely conceptualized and constructed novel. Since the translation has been from Nepal Bhasa into English, I have chosen to speak in English, and I hope this is okay. Thank you. I have been working on this novel for quite some time in the translation, and I have several reflections to make. But I think for this occasion, I will only like to emphasize on 4 items. And these 4 items are, number 1, the theme of the book, number 2, the kaleidoscopic backdrop to the novel, number 3, the techniques of this novel, and number 4, the cultural interlinkages, the cultural landscapes that he has explored. So these are the 4 points that I'm going to be making. Now, first of all, the theme of the book. The theme of the book is search for identity, looking for roots. This is a universal theme explored in many, many complex novels. This search for roots is a human need. Every human being, whoever he be or whoever she be, is always looking to identify himself or herself with the community, to belong to the past, to be part of the heritage. So in this novel also, we have the same story of identity, but with a very interesting twist, because the child that we are talking of in this novel is born into a land he was not familiar with. He was born of a woman whom he didn't know. He didn't know his mother, and he didn't know his father, and she was brought up by strangers. Not only that, then he had to fight for a land to which he didn't belong, and above all, he had to destroy an enemy he knew very little of. All these different strains that Mr. Malla has captured has really given this story a new twist, a unique twist, making this, I think, a classic of a novel. This is the theme that I really thought gave a spectacular touch to September 17th. The second feature that I enjoyed most was the kaleidoscopic landscape, the kaleidoscopic backdrop. The novel opens with a startling statement. It says, "History has ended now." Now, this was a declaration made by a very well-known political theorist, Francis Fukuyama, in 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell and the whole international scenario changed. The international competition fell through, and the monopolization of the West and the beginning of neoliberalization was marked. So at this exact time was the baptism of this young hero, Romulus. He was baptized at the age of 10. And at this point, the novelist makes a very interesting juxtaposition. The personal life of this young man who had no roots, who knew of himself in no way. And then the entire global scene of change, a big, huge transformational shift in world politics. The global context is there throughout the book. Not only the mention of history has ended, but also the Iraq War, the US declaration against the Iraq War, the Operation Red Dawn, capture of Saddam Hussein, and the subsequent judgment. Throughout the novel, the novelist has really displayed his erudition and knowledge of the then contemporary scene, and has sprinkled all these elements of awareness of the historical situation of that time, very, very strikingly and very, very well placed. Only at times, sometimes, his erudition is a little bit invasive or intrusive into the structure of the novel. Nonetheless, I think this is one novel that I've really enjoyed in Nepal Bhasa, to read of the global scene into which is injected this story of identity. The third point I would like to emphasize is the narrative structure. The novelist has very skillfully played together the past and the present, the narrator's voice and the protagonist's expectations and feelings into a very mesmerizing, a mesmerizing conflux of emotions. And it has come through so well that it creates a mesmerizing experience for us to read through. And this is what really fascinated me, because the progression of the novel is very well placed and the transitions are also well placed. There are major three women characters who really add to the compassion and the pathos. And the author has himself displayed his excellent skill at creating atmospheric tension as well as personal character tension. So anybody who is interested in seeing how the emotional turmoil of the protagonist shifts from stage to stage during 3 phases until it comes to the final culmination is very, very interesting to really glide through. But only one point that I find very interesting, and I wonder whether this kind of a technique could have been done differently, which is the whole description of the military operation. Romulus, our character, was a staff sergeant in the American 1st Brigade Combat, and he was in the advance group, and he was part of the team which had discovered Saddam and found him and put him in front of the whole world. But this whole episode of how that happened is described in the form of a description within a pen drive that was given to one of the characters, and it is through the pen drive and looking through the laptop that we hear the narration of this entire story. And I think some of the thrills of the story is lost by this kind of communication mode. And I'm not quite understand why this technique was used, or I'm not quite sure if this technique could have been used in a different way. Nonetheless, the rat is in the hole, and he was found. And at the same time, Romulus during this entire episode says one or two things which I find very interesting, and I'm just going to quote two lines. He says at one point, "I was totally a part of the operation went on. I dedicated my hands, my legs, my ability, my capacity, and my full trust, but only in the role of a human machine. I had no idea what was happening, nor could I find anything." So this was the fate and the destiny of Romulus, the sergeant, the staff sergeant in the American 1st Brigade. But after this war finished, Romulus also again makes another observation. He says, "I felt that now my heart was ready to pick up the burden of finding myself." And hence the individual story progresses. Another element which I find very interesting is the ending of this novel. The ending of this novel is brilliant because what the novelist does, he inverts the emotional dynamics of uncertainty, of turmoil, or torture that we find in the first beginning chapters is now slowly progressing into the calm and peace of a man who has found his destination and has found his peace and found his enlightenment. So the story ends in a very, very peaceful mode. And the most interesting is the patriotic note that he introduces at the end of the novel, when he says at the end of the Mapuja, the Nepal Sambat celebration, there is a colorfully decorated, sparkling van, and lots of young women and women were seated atop the van. And then there are these two lines, which I've translated as this, and I just want to read it for you. It says, "We must live for Nepal, if not for ourselves. The sign of our existence is the soul of Nepal." Let me repeat it again. He says, "We must live for Nepal, if not for ourselves. The sign of our existence is the soul of Nepal." This is the patriotic note that is voiced at the end of the novel. So I will not go into more details of the novel because you are supposed to read it yourselves. But I think the emotional impact left on me by the novel was immense. The unflinching exploration of a tortured soul moving through the years despite his physical illness and finally finding fulfillment and entitlement in the lap of his motherland. I think this is a very, very enriching story. It deeply affected me. It also forced me to confront my own assumptions about life, about truth and identity. So finally, I can say that it has been a pleasure to glide through this saga, translated from Nepal Bhasa into English, and it has been a labor of love because I myself am a Newar and a patriot, and I'm living in a foreign land. I can understand this completely and totally. And lastly, though a great deal of meaning may have been lost in translation, I've done my best to give this translation the same tempo and the same mood that the novelist wrote it in.
This book with Dr. Malla Sundar sir. Thank you, sir.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Mr. Malla Sundar, the author, for bringing such a book to us, and also translator Jyoti Parvat Tuladar, and also I would like to thank publisher Nirmal Karna from Akash Books, New Delhi, India, for bringing out this book into English version. This book was originally written in Nepal Bhasa and published by Nepal Bhasa Academy. Nepal Bhasha Academy is a non-governmental organization established in Nepal era 1113. That means about 50 years before, which are objectives of preserving, promoting Nepal Bhasha, culture and heritage. In this process, Nepal Bhasha Academy has published several publications, books and journals. Few years back, we published a very important publication, that is Newar Encyclopedia. If you go to that encyclopedia, you will be able to know the different aspects of Newars. And also recently, we have digitalized that publication. Now we can have it in digital format also. Malla Sundar is currently Chancellor of the Academy. Under his leadership, we are doing all these activities. Malla Sundar is a well-known writer. He has written many books in Nepal Bhasha, Nepali also. And this September 17 is his fourth novel in Nepal Bhasha. Malla Sundar is a renowned writer, academician. He has written many books, as I said. But he is not only a writer, he is not only the academician, he is a leader of Newar movement. He has struggled for more than half a century for Newar identity, and it still continues. So, he is writer, author, an academician, and on top of that, he is a Newar leader. The issue he used to raise mostly is ethno identity. The main theme of this book, September 17, is also ethno identity. As Dr. Jyoti Dwarika has already told, that the main character of the novel, Romulus, was born in USA, but he was left in hospital, grown in church, so he didn't know who were his parents. But he has quest of his identity. So he was serving as military staff, army staff in USA. But at the same time, he was searching for his own identity. And in that process, he got a clue, and then he came to Nepal to find out his identity. And finally, he found out his identity. His mother was a lady from Bhaktapur, Nepal. So he came to Nepal, not only that he just found out his identity or his mother also, and then he left to United States. It's not that. Then he studied on Newar culture, Newar language to some extent, and other Newar activities. And Romulus was a cancer patient. So he was observing towards the end of the story, he was observing Mahfuza ritual in Nepal with his friends Pamela and Kaveri. Just after observing that ritual, he died. So that was very, heart-touching. And at the end of the story, when they were observing this Mahfuza ritual, they took some photographs. Romulus also took some photographs. And before dying, he sent that photographs to his friends, Pamela and Kaveri. And below the photographs, he has written these two lines. I will read what he has written below the photograph. No, not. It is not an US Army Staff Sergeant Romulus. No, it is not an US Army Staff Sergeant Romulus, but a perfect Newa Kope Bauta. A perfect Newa Kope Bauta. So he was so glad of finding his own identity, and he was so proud of being a Newa. So this is what the main message of the book. So as Mr. Malla, as I said, who has been struggling for Newar identity for more than half a century, this book also support to his movement, I think. And as Dr. Tuladhar has already told many more things, so I would tell one or two things. This book is written in very interesting way. The events, characters, and the places are so nicely described that you feel you are there as a part of the novel. Sometimes you feel while reading the novel, sometimes you feel you in a pub of New York, sometimes you feel you are Berkeley University of California, sometimes you will feel in Mahfuza Mandal of Nevas. So it is very interesting. It is in a very interesting way. Lastly, I can say one thing, that if you start reading this book, you will love to read this book till end. Thank you very much.
Dangol. People that I regarded the author of this novel, the novelist Malla K. Sundar, publisher Nirmal Adarsha. I call him Adarsha Badi. He has published many books in Nepal, and he is familiar with the Nepali writers, publishers, intellectuals, and the different groups, generations of writers. And distinguished audience, members of the audience, Professor Nirmal Tuladhar, the Executive Director of Social Science, Baha, Senior Director, Dr. Karki, and I perhaps shouldn't go out mentioning the names, because I know everybody is a friend. It was a great pleasure for me to listen to the short book review presented by Jyoti Tuladhar. Jyoti Tuladhar and I went to university together at the MA class. We were trained by the late Professor Kamal Prakash Malla, elder brother of the novelist Malla K. Sundar. He's still a bhai, he's still younger than me. By several years, actually. And I see many friends here who were taught by Kamal Prakash Malla at the Department of English. We were not only taught, we were trained into literature. He taught us how to look at this subject genre called literature, how to write, how to interpret, and how to disseminate. He was an amazing guru. Guru of Jyoti and me, Professor Nirmal Tula. There were other students of Kamal Prakash Malla sir. Did he teach you, Shiva? No.
Yeah,
He taught you? You are lucky.
I was the last batch.
So, with these few words, I would like to go take up the subject today. They discuss briefly about this book, September 17. My friend, eminent writer of Nepal Bhasha, Pradhanji, is sitting here. Narvadeswar Man Pradhan. We were class friends. Malla sir taught him also. He could not sometimes go to Kirtipur to attend the class. I used to bring especially Malla sir's notes and go to his house and explain the notes. There was one young lady who always disturbed us while we were studying, and she became our student of English later. I taught her. Sorry, this is sorry about the diversion. And I'm going to speak a few words. I don't want to make it very long and boring for the audience. Jyoti mentioned, gave a gist of the novel. What this novel is about, what she found as a translator, and what she considers as the important message of this novel. A creative message, not a political message. The very strength, the power of the book is the very creative projection, creative message. What is the message? She explained briefly in her address, which she delivered from Lisbon, where she lives now. And to go to this novel, the title itself is very eloquent. The title, The Quest for the Identity of Romulus from Nepal. Whereas Romulus never saw Nepal. His mother, a pregnant woman, was left at the station. One Kuire, gardener at Ravi Bhavan, trapped her and took her to America. Visa was no problem then, and she became pregnant. He left her, सजिलो अंग्रेजीमा बोल्दैछु त्यो हो राम्रो हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्यो. He left her at the station alone. People found her and rescued her. She was the mother of Romulus. Romulus was born. And nobody knows about his mother. But there was a note. The note mentions that she was a woman from Khopa, Bhaktapur. The place was mentioned, everything mentioned in the note. People found the note. They preserved the note and knew that he was the son of a Newar Pavitra. He was born, he was brought up. The novelist mentions Malla ke Sundar bhaile कसरी गरेको कहिलेको छक्क लाग्ने गरी गरे. Mentions about his demeanor, his height, bodily features, everything. He describes so brilliantly. And Then he joined the American Army, Romulus. There is one very interesting coincidence about Romulus. Romulus didn't have parents, and Romulus was nursed and breastfed by sea wolf. Buasale Urkago, Romulus. And Romulus established Rome. So that's the name of Romulus. His name is Romulus here. The title, The Quest for the Identity of Romulus from Nepal. The very title asserts his nationality. Even though the entire novel is devoted to the search, quest for the identity. But the title itself, From Nepal. I like that title very much. The novelists were determined to bring that boy to Nepal. That is how the novel was written. Malla Sundar wanted to bring him to Nepal. त्यसो हुँदाखेरि हिज नोभलको क्रिटिसिजममा ओम्निसियन्ट न्यारेटर हुन्छ एउटा। त्यो न्यारेटर जसले आफ्नो कथा भन्छ सबैतिर व्यापक हुन्छ, त्यो आफ्नो कथा आफै भन्छ। हियर रोमुलस टेल्स हिज ओन स्टोरी। एउटा यो नोभल पढ्दा विचार गर्नुपर्ने के छ भने सुरु फर्स्ट च्याप्टरमै रोमुलस यसरी बोल्छ, उसले बोलेको छ। त्यो इटालिक्स लेटर त्यो छड्के अक्षरमा छापेको छ, त्यो चाहिँ पहिला नै एउटा इनलाइटेन बुझेको मान्छेको जस्तो छ। He understands himself. He knows about his origin. He speaks like a very enlightened person. He speaks like a writer. He speaks like Malla Sundar, powerful writer. This boy. त्यो चाहिँ नोभल पढ्दाखेरि अलिकति बिचमा सुरुमा त्यो बेला आत्मसात गर्नुपर्छ। But it is natural. You accept it naturally. First chapter is very, very important. Whoever in the first chapter, the person जसको कथा हो, that person has discovered himself, found everything and speaks about himself. पहिला अलिकति त्यसमा झुकिन सक्छ, तर the time factor element in the novel is organized in a very, very interesting way. The time, past and present, they coalescing of the time. They coalesce. You jump back and forth about his origin, his birth, his life at the army, his encounter, his meeting with Pamela in America itself.
Yeah, Pamela is there.
Pamela is there, and then
Is a professor.
Pamela is a professor. Pamela has lost her brother, and she perhaps sees her brother in Rome. Though the novelist has not said directly, but he has also said it. She considers him as a shadow of her brother.
Yeah.
So she loves him as her brother. It's very important, किनभने प्यामेलाकोले उसलाई भाइ जस्तो गरेको कारणले नोभलमा डाइनामिक्स रचना भएको छ। And then the novel runs sometimes at a very fast speed, sometimes it stagnates, runs or रोकिन्छ, and the entire society comes up, wakes up, but ultimately it turns out to be the quest of one individual. रोमुलसकै खोजी हुन्छ पछि एक्लै खोज्छ, आमा खोज्छ, देश खोज्छ, सबै चिज खोज्छ, भाषा खोज्छ। ऊ नेवा हो, त्यति नोटले खोज्छ, तर न उसँग नेवा भाषा जान्दछ, न आमाको केही थाहा छ, न देशै राम्रो जान्दछ। This युवक finds Pamela अनि उसलाई अर्को लेडीलाई पछि भेट्छ होइन कावेरीलाई डक्टर कावेरीलाई पछि भेट्छ and then he thinks that he has found a nation, he has found his keys, he has found his people in them. He is healthy, fine, wonderful soldier. And talking about the soldier, there is a mention of the Iraq war. Saddam Hussein was toppled down, he was executed. मैले यहाँ कोट गरेको छु अहिले समय धेरै जान्छ भन्दिनँ. Novelist has said George Bush was elated, excited because he won the battle. Saddam Hussein was in a very terrible state of emptiness because he lost, he was going to be executed. Such one, and then he has also mentioned, given the reference says to the war, people, scholars who want to study about the war, he has given. The important कुरा मैले एउटा सुरुमै के भन्नुपर्छ भने Malla K. Sundar, the novelist, has used a refrain. एउटा मेयर साहबलाई पनि म भन्दैछु एउटा त्यहाँ एक्सप्रेसन आउँछ. The history has the end of history. त्यो परम्परा आइरहन्छ रिफ्रेन भन्छु म त्यसलाई. यो उपन्यासको लय जस्तो the history has complained about. फ्रान्सिस फुकुयामाको त्यो कहिले आएको थियो भने जब कम्युनिजम फेल भयो, सोभियत सङ्घको पतन भयो, अनि त्यो मान्यताहरू सबै भत्किएपछि अनि डेमोक्रेसीको आयो, लिबरल इकोनोमीको कुरा आयो. यस्तो क्रिटिसाइज गर्नेहरू छन्, त्यता डिबेटमा नजाउँ. फुकुयामाकै क्रिटिसिजम पनि थुप्रै छ. अनि यहाँ स्कलरहरू हुनुहुन्छ पोलिटिकल साइन्सको, सबै थाहा छ. अनि मैले लेखेँ 1989. That was about the time when the history had taken a turn. The history had ended. The novelist is so talented and intelligent. He has woven that this refrain of the end of history to the beginning of the life of Romulus. This is he has created a very beautiful irony, powerful irony. The इतिहास एन्ड हो यता सुरु. तर who saw his history? Who is responsible for his history? What did he suffer? एकजना नि भक्तपुरको नेवार महिलाको छोरा. Where was he? What is his history? Are we then in a position to talk about the end of history? इतिहास त सकियो. इतिहास भनेको के भनेदेखि एउटा गतिशील एक्टिभिटीको नाम हो. अनेकौँ चिज हुन्छन् त्यसमा, तर त्यसका एक्टिभिटीहरू एउटा कुनै ठाउँमा गइसकेपछि धेरै फ्याक्टरहरूसँग जुधेर अनि घटनाहरू हुन्छन्. अनि त्यसलाई हिस्ट्री भन्छन् कसैले. फुकुयामाले भने एन्ड अफ हिस्ट्री. त्यो चाहिँ हिस्ट्री सक्यो. That's the end of history. But for our hero, Romulus, where did the history end? The novelist, nonetheless, uses this refrain, the end of history. It's not just Romulus's history, it's the end of a certain history. The novelist, his philosophy is that the history of an individual is as important as the history of a nation. किन नहुने? त्यो बिचरा अब्स्क्योर उसको ठाउँमा एउटा जिन्दगीको यात्रा गर्दैछ भनेपछि उसको हिस्ट्री एउटा नेसनको हिस्ट्री। पछि त्यो नोभेल इन्टायर नोभेलमा खोजिरहन्छ उसले, देश खोज्छ, आमा खोज्छ, भाषा खोज्छ, आखिर पत्ता लगाउँछ त्यो टोल जहाँबाट उसकी आमा जहाँ जन्मेकी थिइन् भेट्टाउँछ। तर त्यो भेट्टाइसकेको अवस्थामा he didn't have much life to live. पढ्दै गए मल्ल के सुन्दर भाइले किन जीवन नदिया होला हो यो रोमुलसलाई, अनि दिएको भए हुन्थ्यो नि, अहिले पो मजा आयो त ठोक्नु पर्थ्यो नि, बिचराको लाइफै छैन। आमा खोज्दै आएको, उसको आमाले दिनुहुन्छ भक्तपुरमा खाना खुवाउनुहुन्छ, स्नेह दिनुहुन्छ, र अन्त्यमा उहाँले खाना खुवाउँदा खाँदै आमाकै काखमा मर्छ त्यो। म त रोएँ त्यो पल, बडो कारुणिक किसिमले आमासँगै आमाले खुवाउनुहुन्छ, उसको आमाले के उसको पामिलाको आमाले खुवाउनुहुन्छ, अनि इट आइज पिसफुल्ली। मलाई के भाइलाई भन्न मन लाग्यो, दिनु नि हो अलिक लाइफ, सकियो त। टोल भेटायो, आफ्नो बनाला भेटायो, आमाको वनमाला भेटायो, आमाको अझै 20 दिनहरू पातै छ मेरो, यहाँ सबै टिपेर ल्याएको छु। अनि वनमाला भेटायो, सबै भेट्यो। अनि नोभेलिस्टले एक ठाउँ के लेख्नु भएको छ, आमाको लागि 2 थोपा आँसु छ, अभिवादन। So this is a journey of a different kind of Ulysses. Very brave person. He went to the war, but he didn't find the war for him. He fought many battles in his life, but he didn't reach anywhere. He would not have reached anywhere if he had met this woman, the Nevar woman, the scholar, Pamela. So the novelist is such a very wonderful, clever novelist. He has created all the fundamentals, all the elements in the novel, and the novel moves. Yesterday move as a novel. He has created this system. The novel move गर्ने एउटा कुरा छ, म धेरै वर्ष साहित्य पढाएको र साहित्य समीक्षा लेख्ने मान्छे भएकोले के भन्छु भनेदेखि, the novel moves, novels always move with the individuals. Such kind of novels move with the individual character. In Malla K. Sundar's novel moves in such a subtle way. यसरी हुन्छ नोभेल, यसरी चल्छ कि characters find themselves, others find themselves, space खुल्छ, नेसन खुल्छ, आइडेन्टिटी खुल्छ, भाषा खुल्छ। रोमुलसले केही नेवार एक्सप्रेसनहरू सिकेको थियो, भेट्दैन उसको यस्तै एक्सप्रेसनहरू सिक्यो, लास्टमा बोल्छ। त्यस्तो एक्सप्रेसनहरू नेवा भाषाको एक्सप्रेसनहरू सिक्यो। द्याट इज भेरी मुभिङ। भाषा कसरी उसले सिक्यो र बोल्यो, एक्सप्रेसनहरू। That means the novelist has put all the very sensitive, very subtle elements of life together in this novel. लामो छलफल गरेर मजाले नोट राखेर कीर्तिपूर्ण क्लासमा गएर जस्तो गर्नु पाएँ भने म मजाले गर्छु, तर यहाँ तपाईँहरूलाई धेरै बोर गरिरहनु चाहिँ चाहन्छु। त अब केही भन्नै पर्ने कुराहरू भए पनि छोड्छु, तर के हो चाहिँ भन्छु भने, अघि ज्योतिले भने यसमा आइडेन्टिटी छ, सेन्सिटिभिटी छ, इतिहास छ। मैले धेरै कुरा यो विषयमा निर्मल, मेरो साथी निर्मल प्रोफेसर तलाबाट थाहा पाइरहन्छ मैले केही कुरामा एक्सप्रेसनमा गडबड गरेँ भने त्यसो होइन यसो गर्नु यसो भन्छ त्यस धेरै सिकेको छु त्यो आइडेन्टिटी कसरी हेर्ने कसरी बुझ्नु अनि यसो अब फेरि नोबेलमा जान्छु नोबेलमा जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ नै भक्तपुरको जब हिस्ट्री सुरु हुन्छ मल्लकी सुन्दर भाइले फेरि फुकुवामा ल्याउनुहुन्छ अनि त्यस पछाडि एक दुईवटा ग्रन्थ ल्याउनुहुन्छ भक्तपुरमा पुगिन्छ मैले पनि पढेको ग्रन्थ हो त्यो मेसोकोजम भन्ने लेख हाम्रो प्रत्युष भाइहरूले खुब आलोचना गर्छन् यो किताब तर मलाई त राम्रो लाग्छ मेसोकोजम द अर्गनाइजेसन अफ ए हिन्दू नेवार सिटी इन नेपाल साह्रै राम्रो किताब मलाई मन पर्छ त्यसपछि डाक्टर शिवरी दालको साथी फेभरिट नील गुस्तो अहिले उनको कन्ट्याक्ट छ कि छैन थाहा छैन बुढा फर्किए नील गुस्तो मैले पनि पढेँ भक्तपुरको विषय यी दुईवटा किताबहरूको मेन्सन छ भक्तपुरमा जब रोमुलसको खोज सुरु हुन्छ द नोबलिस्ट गिव्स हिम he doesn't need these books Romulus doesn't need these books he doesn't need these books सिपाही मान्छे मजाले के को मेसोकोजम पढिरहन्छ तर novelist has given him tremendous language when this character muses upon himself and he speaks a brilliant language it is written मलाई त्यहाँ चाहिँ मलाई यो नोभेलको अझै पढ्नुपर्छ लेडी मेयर आउनु भएको छ उहाँलाई जहिले पनि एडमायर गर्छु अडियन्समा बडो वन्डरफुल राइटरहरू हुनुहुन्छ नेवार भाषाको लेखकहरू हुनुहुन्छ मेरो साथी छन् मेरा श्रेष्ठ पनि छन् आफ्नै साथीको मात्रै कुरा गरेर बस्यो उसले हाम्रो समय नष्ट गरेर हुने होला अब अहिलेलाई यति भन्दै बिदा लिन चाहन्छु अनि एउटा सानो रमाइलो कुरा मल्लकी सुन्दर भाइले बोल्नुपर्छ त यो मेरो किताब मैले उपन्यास त्यति पढ्दिनँ किन कसरी बोल्नु हुन्छ बोल्छु भनेर डायरीमा सेप्टेम्बर 17 लेखेँ मैले सोचेँ त्यो त्यस दिन विमोचन हुन्छ अनि विदुर लाएकोमा विदुर डङ्गलकोमा बसेको बेला फोन आयो कृष्ण भाइको होइन त्यो त किताबको नाम हो अनि चेन्ज गरेर राखेँ सेप्टेम्बर 17 त बिचरा प्रोटागनिस्टको लागि अन्तिम दिन भनेको थियो तर सङ्घर्ष गरेर बाँच्यो नेवार भाषाका एक्सप्रेसनहरू बोल्यो आमाले दिएको खायो अनि शान्तिपूर्वक गयो यो आइडेन्टिटीको क्वेसन हो
Thank you, Professor Dr. Abhisubedi, for sharing your wonderful views on the novel and the novelist. Now, we have our chief guest, Acting Mayor, Kathmandu Metropolitan City, Sunita. I would like to request you to come and share your views on the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Namaste, Zozolaba. I feel very happy to stand in front of you and, of course, talk about September 17 and mostly about the hero of today's event, Malla Sundar. Distinguished guest, Professor Dr. Abhisubedi, Dr. Pushparaj Rajkarnikar, Publisher Nirmal Kumar Karn, and I also get to see my teacher after such a long time, Professor Dr. Mriganda sir, and everybody present here. One more time, Namaste, Zozolopa. First of all, congratulations to Malla Sundar sir for yet another achievement of your life, for launching this amazing book, September 17. The book I'm also look up to, and the book that has actually increased my appetite to read more. September 17 धेरै कुरा भनिसक्नु भएको छ, स्टोरीहरू पनि हामीले सुनिसकेका छौँ, अलिअलि टिजर जस्तो पनि भयो र किताब त घर गएर यहाँहरू सबैजनाले पढ्नु नै हुनेछ. So when we talk about book, even the previous spokesperson also talk about book is all about where does book actually born. It actually starts from writer's mind. And the writer's mind tells about the book itself, the background, the history, the root of Newar people and our history. I'm very glad that this book is not just about the history, it's also about finding our roots. Malla K. Sundar, how do we know him? He has multiple hats. Some people know him as a writer, author, novelist, journalist, activist, indigenous rights activist, social rights activist, human rights activist, and a lot of identity is what he carries. With multiple hats, he is adding yet another hat, yet another identity related with the September 17 itself. So writing a book is not just about, this is completely my personal view, it's not just about collecting the words from the dictionaries, and it's actually about preserving somebody's imagination, somebody's story, somebody's history, and of course somebody's idea. This book, I believe that this book has actually preserved what's there in the author's mind, what was there in his imagination, and how he actually wants to link the root of Newar people through the wordplay, through the collection of words. That's what he has done through writing a book. As writing a book is one thing, it of course preserves our civilization, it also shapes our critical thinking. And the third is it actually inspires what we do, the action that we take. And I am very hopeful that this book preserves our civilization. This book shapes the way we think, the critical thinking that we have towards our society. And the next important thing is to take the action to preserve our identity. And this book has of course added yet another voice in the collective memory of the people, collective memory of the literature, and collective memory of human civilization. When we talk about Kathmandu, it's all about culture. It's all about the stories. We see a lot of temples in Kathmandu. We see courtyards, we see alleys, and everything within Kathmandu has some story to tell. That's the reason Kathmandu is not just a city of temples, it's also the city of story. And writing, the literature, the authors have very important role in preserving what Kathmandu is all about, because they are the ones who actually document the stories, the myth, and the faith we believe in. That's what makes Kathmandu the Kathmandu. Literature is one of the best way to show what our society holds. Aina ho, samajko aina ho, sahitya bhanincha. Literature is considered as the mirror of our society. At the same time, what I believe is literature is also the guiding light to lead the society. यस्तै समाजको ऐना मात्र हैन, समाजलाई दोहोर्याउने पनि काम गर्छ, समाजलाई कुन ठाउँमा लग्ने, समाजलाई कुन दिशामा लग्ने भन्ने पनि साहित्यले काम गर्छ. And that's why people who write are the architect of our society. The book has a lot to tell, of course. So when I really want to talk about Malla K. Sundar here, he's someone that I really look up to. I was not so into our culture when I was a kid. Once I started learning about our culture, our lipi, our script, our language, and somebody I really look up to is Malla K. Sundar. He not just inspires his fellow friends, he also inspires newer generation like us. Thank you so much for being a guardian who has always motivated people to move forward, especially in preserving our culture, our language, our scripts. He was also mentioning that Ranjanali people शिक्षा नि त्यो किताबमा भन्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो. That's how he has added value, whatever he does. As a writer, he has always placed our culture at the front line. As a journalist, he has always raised a voice of people, especially indigenous people. As a academician, he has always rooted to our culture. And this is what he is. And this is how he has actually inspired not just his generation, but the generations to come. किताबमा धेरै ठाउँमा लेखिएको छ किताब मलाई अलि अगाडि नै दिनुभएको थियो पढ्नु है भनेर but I'm very sad to tell you that I couldn't read book यति धेरै कुराहरू आइरहेको छ कि त्यो किताब पढ्ने मौका चाहिँ पाएको छैन तर आज कार्यक्रममा आउनुभन्दा अगाडि चाहिँ एटलिस्ट मैले के च्याप्टर छ चाहिँ हेर्नुपर्छ भनेर च्याप्टर हेरेको थिएँ अनि त्यसपछि ट्रान्सलेटरको नोट्स पनि पढेँ त्यो पढेपछि पनि अलिअलि त थाहा हुन्छ किताब के रहेछ भनेर एन्ड द फर्स्ट लाइन of the book itself is history has ended now but I think history has been lived now through your book. History has been preserved through your book. The idea that you had is going to live forever through the book itself. The imagination that you had is going to live forever. So history is something that is not going to die. It's going to live forever. And the history is going to live through your book. Congratulations once again. And I wish you all the best. I hope that we all get to read this book and get inspired in any possible way the book says. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. It's so privileged to be here and this is one of the proudest moments for me to launch his book by my hand. Thank you.
Sundar, the publisher has an announcement. Nirmal Karna has a big heart that he's a big-hearted man. He says that the book is priced 800. He's not going to take that big money today. He said that only 600 is enough. So those of you buying today will grab this much discount. So this is the information that I would like to share. Finally, now I would like to request novelist Malla Sundar sir to come here and thank your people.
Namaskar. Good evening. At this point of time, while I am submitting before you, I realize mesmerizing when I am standing before you, respected personalities, scholars, friends, colleagues, and my family members, relatives. I don't know, but for me, while I am looking your eyes, your gesture, and your posture, I find your positive vibes. The vibes I am feeling inspired, encouraged, and enlightened. To me, being very sincere, it is very hard to me right now I'm feeling that words may not be enough to express my feeling in inner hearts. Language may not be effective to express the emotion. Really, I am touched, I am moved. I stop to cry, otherwise I will cry. So moved, so touched. Every verse from Professor Subedi, from Sunita, Madam Sunita, chief guest of this event, my colleague Dr. Pushparaj and Nirmal Kरणक, every verse inspired me. So I think let me bow down my head in my mother tongue, in Nepal Bhasha. I would like to say Anya Pagya. That is, I want to bow down my head to you. I am bowing it. Thank you. Thank you very much for the corner, bringing the book in physical form. Others book, thank you. And thank you, honorable, respected, intellectual, Dr. Professor Abhisubedi, who has very deft, analytical projection of my writings, and thanks to my colleague for his very sweet words. And I must thank, she may be watching the live from Portugal, Lisbon, my Tata, Jyoti Tata, who made so laborious job bringing this Nepal Bhasha text to English version. Thanks to my Jyoti Prabha Tuladar Tata. And thanks you all. I know I can stand, not only stand, I can pace, I can walk, I can run, because you all is behind me, supporting me and inspiring me. I know I have to
Program, the refreshment outside, that's I'd like to inform it. And the books also right there.